A lot more Russian troops are attacking in compact cars, vans, and golf carts. Armored trucks and civilian vehicles such as vans, compact cars, and all-terrain vehicles, that is, golf carts, now account for around 70% of Russian losses, according to one recent survey. But the growing proportion of civilian-style vehicles in the wreckage of Russia's 37-month wider war on Ukraine doesn't mean there are fewer Russian tanks and fighting vehicles, the traditional mounts for mechanized troops along the 700-mile front line. No, there are actually more destroyed and abandoned tanks and fighting vehicles dotting the line of contact today than there were a year ago, even as these purpose-made armored vehicles represent a smaller proportion of Russian losses. The growing abundance of vehicles of all sorts, unarmored and armored, speaks to the intensity of the overlapping Russian offensives that have kicked off along multiple sectors in eastern Ukraine and western Russia in the last 18 months. Until recently, the Russians were attacking almost everywhere, in large numbers, in whatever vehicles they could source from official or unofficial channels. But Russian losses rose in proportion to Russian assaults, and stocks of traditional tanks and infantry fighting vehicles ran low relative to increasing demand, compelling regiments and brigades to switch to golf carts, Lada compact cars, and Bukanka vans in order to lend mobility to increasingly frequent attacks. Armored tanks and fighting vehicles accounted for around half of the roughly 375 vehicles Russia lost in February 2024. A year later this February, Russia lost around 1,100 vehicles, and 250 were tanks and fighting vehicles. Fully half of Russian losses that month were civilian vehicles or armored trucks. But the half that included tanks and fighting vehicles still represented a raw increase in the number of these vehicles appearing along the front line. Growing desperate for battlefield mobility as early as 2022, the Russians opened up vast storage bases that once sheltered tens of thousands of obsolete Cold War vehicles. But even these old vehicles couldn't fully equip frontline regiments fast enough, given the accelerating pace of the regiment's operations. A Lada compact car, totally unarmored and weighing just a ton or so, is already pretty vulnerable on the drone-patrolled, artillery-pocked front line of Russia's 37-month wider war on Ukraine. Toss a 20-pound TM-62 anti-tank mine in the back, and a Lada goes from flimsy to catastrophically explosive. After a month-long pause, during which the Kremlin's priority was to eject a strong Ukrainian force from western Russia's Kursk Oblast, the Russians are on the attack again outside Pokrovsk, a fortress city in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast. Their supply lines cut, the Ukrainians have retreated from Kursk. That has freed up resources for a fresh Russian push on Pokrovsk. But the Russians have already squandered some of those resources, a dozen armored vehicles, including at least one modern T-90M tank, on a failed push through a swarm of drones on Thursday. Still short of modern vehicles despite the relief in Kursk, many Russian assault groups are riding into battle in Ladas, Bukanka vans, Gaz-69 trucks, and other civilian vehicles. Assault time. Everyone into the Lada. Lada assaults often end in disaster for their drivers and passengers as the 16-foot-long compact cars run over mines or get peppered by artillery or chased down by explosive first-person view drones, where a 40-ton tank might shrug off a dozen FPVs before succumbing to the 13th drone, and Lada, even one with an add-on anti-drone cage, rarely survives a single strike. Moreover, the cars are prone to getting mired on the soft spring soil in Ukraine, making them especially easy targets. It's already practically suicidal to attack entrenched Ukrainian troops in a Lada. It's even deadlier when the Lada is, for some reason, packing a TM-62 mine with enough explosive potential to immobilize a tank. Anti-tank mines in your Lada can get you atomized really quickly, explained analyst Mocklison. Lada atomization is exactly what happened when a Russian regiment attacked a few miles south of Pokrovsk on March 19th. Russian troops often carve that backs off their assault cars' cabs in order to facilitate a quick exit. So there was nothing but a possible thin screen to stop an FPV that barreled toward the anti-tank mine, resting in the back of one idling Lada. It exploded in a fireball that may have been 100 feet tall.